One ordinary January night, a night that should have been filled with laughter and warmth, a young woman named Kimberly Sue Morse vanished. Her smile, the one that could light up a room, was gone. Her future, full of promises, was ripped away in an act of pure evil.
January 2000, a horrific discovery in a local apartment.
One of the worst ones I've ever seen.
Kimberly Morse stabbed to death, her clothes set on fire.
I can't believe that somebody would do that to her.
Decades later, a suspect is still at large. Now, how a critical piece of evidence could help solve this cold case.
Whoever did it's got to be shaken in their shoes today.
Who killed Kimberly Morse?
Hey guys, and welcome back to Crimeco, your go-to place for dark and captivating true crime stories. We are here to bring you the mysteries that continue to haunt us all, and if you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button and like the video as well. You should definitely turn on the post notifications so that whenever we upload a new video, you're kept up to date. Now grab a drink, snuggle up, and get ready to crack open another crazy case with your favorite crew. Let's dive in. North Providence, Rhode Island, a quiet town of about 30,000 people where streets lined with brick ranch houses whispered of a classic New England life. Kids played in parks, their laughter filled the air. The brick manor condo seemed to fit right in. A red brick building with one-bedroom apartments, a place where you'd expect peace and quiet, especially in Unit 28, a modest basement apartment. But beneath the surface of normalcy, something sinister lurked. Friendly hellos between neighbors couldn't hide the evil that was waiting to erupt. No one suspected that their quiet community was about to be shattered by a horrific crime. Kimberly Sue Morse was the baby of the family, a surprise gift born in 1967 to Eddie and Rudy Morse in a small Maine town. Her three older siblings, Sandy, Carl, and Kathy, were already teenagers by the time Kimberly came along. They all doted on their little sister, showering her with love from the moment she opened her bright blue eyes. Kimberly grew up on Beach Ridge Road, surrounded by family. Aunts, uncles, and cousins lived just down the street or a short bike ride away. It was a tight-knit bunch. Her dad, Eddie, became her personal chauffeur, driving her and her friends everywhere they wanted to go. He even kept a detailed log with everyone's names and numbers. He always knew where his precious daughter was. It's safe to say that Kimberly was a daddy's girl through and through. They had a special bond. That's why it hit her so hard when he passed away from COPD in 1999. It left a huge hole in her life, but Kimberly still had her mom, Rudy, and her siblings. They were her rock and her whole life growing up in their cozy Maine home. The family mostly stayed close to their roots, preferring familiar grounds for vacations. Even though Kimberly had older siblings, the age gap only made her the whole family's darling. Her big sister, Sandy, even went to parent-teacher conferences, keeping an eye out on Kimberly's schoolwork. That January night was like any other for Kimberly. She finished her shift at the Fox Lady at around 11:45 a.m. They did have safety rules at the club. She always checked out with a valet, and a big bouncer walked her to her car. Kimberly hopped into her black Mazda, a familiar 15-minute drive back to her apartment at Brick Manor. It was all routine, nothing to worry about. She pulled into her usual spot, maybe jingling her keys a little as she walked to the entrance, heels clicking on the pavement. It was cold out, but her coat kept her warm as she walked to the basement. She passed the laundry room and reached her little one-bedroom apartment, Unit 28, unlocked the door and stepped inside, never knowing that pure evil was waiting for her in the darkness. The second she was in, a figure launched at her from the shadows. Before she could even react, there was a struggle, a fight in the kitchen. Red stuff started pulling around her as she fell to the floor. Whoever did this used her trust against her. They knew her routine, knew how she felt safe at home, and that's how they trapped her. A cruel plan to catch her completely off guard. The more the police dug into what happened to Kimberly, the worse it got. What should have been a normal night after work turned into a horrific nightmare. The evidence showed Kimberly barely made it past the doorway before someone attacked her in the kitchen. In the struggle, her keys and gloves fell to the ground as she fought back. Cuts on her coat showed she tried her best to defend herself, but the worst part was where the cuts were. They were all around her neck, like her attacker grabbed her throat and squeezed with all their might, choking the life out of her. Even after she was unconscious, it wasn't over. They hurt her with a blade repeatedly while she was lying helplessly on the floor. It seemed like the perpetrator wasn't satisfied with just ending her. They took off her clothes, dragged her to the bathroom, and put her body in the bathtub. In a final act of pure evil, they dosed her with gasoline and set her on fire. They turned her own home, a place where she should have felt safe, into a burning nightmare. The whole town was reeling after what happened to Kimberly. It was just awful, like a dark cloud had settled over everyone. No one could believe someone could do something so messed up, just so evil. The police were disgusted by the whole scene. The violence was way more than it took to just end someone. It felt planned, like the ender had some kind of dark, twisted reason for doing it all. There were no signs of a break-in, which meant Kimberly knew her attacker, someone she trusted enough to let into her own home. But they came and turned her safe haven into a hellhole. Crime scene investigators were like bloodhounds, sniffing out any clue they could find. Fibers, hair, fingerprints, anything left behind could crack the case wide open. They talked to everyone Kimberly knew, trying to figure out what happened, when, and who might have wanted to hurt her. Setting her body on fire was another creepy detail. Was the ender trying to get rid of evidence, or was it some kind of sick ritual, like a twisted ending to all the horrible things they did to her? The police couldn't ignore anything, but with something this messed up. The longer the investigation went on, the clearer it became. They were hunting a monster, someone who didn't care about life at all, someone who took a kind, beautiful person and took away everything that made her human. And with every passing day, this monster was out there. The whole town got more and more scared. The police wondered if maybe Kimberly wasn't even the real target. Maybe she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, like a symbol of everything the ender hated. But the whole thing just didn't make sense. If it was a stranger, why go through all the trouble? And if it was someone Kimberly knew, how could they do something so horrific to someone they knew? The more the police thought about it, the worse it got. Either way, the ender was a monster, someone who enjoyed hurting people in the most messed up way possible. And the worst part was, it made it even much harder to find what's left of Kimberly and give her a proper burial. The forensic team examined everything super closely, taking pictures and notes of every awful detail. The kitchen where Kimberly was first attacked looked like a wrecked battleground. Keys and gloves on the floor marked her last steps before the fight began. Red substance smeared across the floor and counters told the story of a girl struggling to survive. Cuts around her throat showed how she was choked, the air stolen from her lungs by a violent attacker. Even when she was unconscious, the torture didn't stop there. Her body had dozens more blade wounds, like the perpetrator was enjoying hurting her even after she couldn't fight back anymore. Kimberly's death wasn't just a tragedy for her, it tore apart everyone who knew her. Back in her hometown, her family was shattered. Their happy memories of Kimberly, the fun stories and adventures from her childhood, all fell tainted now. How could something so awful happen to their bright, joyful girl? It made them question everything they thought they knew about the world. If someone so full of life could be taken so violently, what did it all mean? It meant their quiet, safe town was not safe anymore, as the rules everyone lived by could be broken at any time. Her friends in Providence felt the same way, but with the extra layer of guilt. They blamed themselves for not protecting her somehow. Maybe they could have done something different. Conversations with friends turned into endless circles of what ifs and self blame. Kids she mentored were confused. How could someone so caring be gone? It made them wonder if anyone was safe. Everywhere Kimberly touched alive, there was pain and disbelief. The way she was ended felt like an attack on everything good about her. It was like someone took the light out of her and replaced it with darkness. Kimberly's demise was a horrific act, but it also brought the communities of Maine and Rhode Island together in a powerful way. People were angry and refused to let this evil win. In both York and North Providence, there were protests and memorials everywhere. People wouldn't stand for this. Whoever did this wouldn't get away with it. The police threw everything they had at the case. Local, state, and even federal agents all worked together to find the ender. They followed every lead, no matter how small. Community helped too. They called hotlines with any information they might have, even if it seemed unimportant. Kimberly's family and friends shared everything they knew with the police, hoping it would lead to an arrest. In a terrible way, Kimberly's death made everyone even more determined to find the ender, from the government officials to the people who knew her best. Everyone was working together to bring this person to justice. Kimberly's ending was a monstrous act, and everyone knew it. The pain it caused her family and her friends was unbearable, and they deserved justice. But it was bigger than that, too. It wasn't just about one person. This was about taking a stand against pure evil.
Kimberly Morse was killed nearly 20 years ago. To bring in new leads, North Providence detectives added the investigation to a deck of cold case playing cards. Each card highlights an unsolved homicide or missing person case in Rhode Island.
Eyewitness News reporter Steve Nielsen uncovered new details tonight in the murder of Kimberly Morse.
As you hear these terrible details of what she went through that night, keep in mind the person who did it is still out there.
If this ender got away with it, it will be saying it's okay to be that hateful and violent. It will be a win for darkness over light. Kimberly was a bright light in the world, and they wouldn't let a monster dim it forever. They had to find the person, expose their evil act for everyone to see, and make sure they paid for what they did. It was the only way to heal and move on. Catching the culprit wouldn't bring back Kimberly, but it will mean something. It will mean that good still triumphs over evil, that kindness and decency matter. It will be a way to honor Kimberly's memory and show the world that her light still shines. The whole world was disgusted by what happened to her. It was pure evil, something so awful it seemed inhumane. Sadly, the police are still working on this case, following every lead they can find until they catch whoever did this to Kimberly. Only then can they start to heal from this absolute nightmare. In the end, no matter how evil this crime was, Kimberly's kindness and love will always shine through. The darkness can't win. The people who loved her will find strength to move on, and the love and hope they have will win over the terrible emptiness. That's the real legacy Kimberly left behind. Alright guys, before you dash off into the night, don't forget to hit the like button. It lets us know you're enjoying the content. Also, turning on post notifications keeps you notified whenever we drop a new case. And we're so glad to have you as part of our community. And we'll see you on the flip side of another mind-blowing case. Until then, stay curious.